Welcome to our event tonight. Um, tonight's event is hosted by Co.Fund and Accent C3 together. And tonight's event will include three parts. The first part is educational panel with the topic of how to better communicate with an accent. And then we will move to a small mini happy hour to celebrate our Chinese Lantern Festival together. And the last one is all of the attendees here, you may get a chance to receive a one-to-one free mini consultation from Lisa, who is just over here. She's the founder and CEO of Accent C3, and she will provide you some unique tips and some unique feedback on how to improve your communication skills. So for those who are not quite familiar with us, Co.Fund is a cross-border crowdfunding platform based in New York City. We assist investors both in China and the global market to invest in the business they believe in and to share their success. And our goal is to connect capital, institutional investors, and project sponsors from both the United States, China, and worldwide market. And our platform is very easy to use with bilingual interface, and it is very convenient for both Chinese and global investors. And speaking of our partners, Co.Fund beta launched in September last year, and by now we already have a lot of partners. So what we are seeing right here is a list of part of our partners. So you will see like Techstars, like TriPoint, and of course the most valuable and important partner of us, Accent C3. And what is Accent C3 exactly doing? So it teaches people the skills that needed to deliver a clear and connected message. So we can see here the C3 stands for communication, clarity, and culture. So people can learn how to communicate better, even under the different culture, and how to marketing yourselves, how to deliver the message in a more clearly and more confident way. So now let's welcome Lisa to give us the presentation.
Thank you very much for that very lovely introduction. So I am the founder of Accent C3, and my name is Lisa Patty, and I'm a speech pathologist. I started doing this work probably more than 10 years ago, and as you were saying, the C3 stands for communication, clarity, and culture, because I try to blend all those elements into all the programs that I develop. And I develop the programs based on the person who is coaching with me. So if it's someone who needs something specific, no matter where they're from around the world, I look at their needs and develop the program for them. This is a little introduction. Like I said, I'm a speech-language pathologist, and I began to do this work in graduate school. Actually, I did my master's research thesis on this work, on the perceptions and awareness of accents with foreign-born professors and the students, and I surveyed the students, and it helped me shape some of the work that I'm doing now. I have always been in love with cultures and languages and travel, so that's actually why I got into this work, because I wanted to meet people from around the world. I wanted to learn about different cultures, and I wanted to help level the playing field so that when people are communicating in a second language, a third language, a fourth language, it makes it easier. And it's a big deal to communicate in another language, and people don't realize how big of a deal that is. I have a lot of clients who come to me and they'll apologize for how they sound or where they're from, or that they haven't grasped a certain concept. And the first thing I'm there to say is, well, you're speaking in a second language or a third language, which is much, much more than many people here in the marketplace or many American-born people can do. So the value that people bring is extremely important. And like I said, I'm here to just make people feel more confident and more clear about how they're presenting. Now, I was going to have you do some introductions, but I think we're going to save that for later, just depending on people coming in and out. So one thing I wanted to ask you is, when you think about communication and when you are engaged, when you really like to listen to someone, what are the things that make you want to listen? Or what are some of the elements that make you want to continue to listen to a speaker? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Is it their body language, their energy, passion? Okay, those are actually really great things. Does everybody agree with that? Does anyone have anything to add to that? Okay. Energy and passion are actually very important. Those are very important.
All right.
Why do we communicate? Why? Does anyone? Why? Why do you communicate?
Understand each other better.
Yeah, we have to. It's a human thing. You know, without communication, we can't bond. We can't get our point across. You know, when we work, when we meet people, when we socialize, we have to communicate. So understanding different nuances in communication, how people communicate with each other, is just as important as how we communicate. So looking at the audience and seeing, oh, are they interested in this? Are they nodding their head? Are they looking like they're going to fall asleep? Are they checking their phone? Are they engaged? Those are things that you want to start paying attention to when you're delivering a pitch or a presentation or leading a meeting. Now, what I do is accent and communication coaching. Now, you might ask, what is that? So some of the things I focus on are clarity, delivery, and connection. So how clear you are, how you're delivering your message, and the connection you can make to your listener, the audience. So accent. Accent is something I work on very specifically with many people. We don't need voice yet. Accent is something I work on with most of the people I work with, but depending on who it is, what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll do a little evaluation. I'll say, okay, this is some of the things you need to work on. Accent is really the sounds, but it's also how you're using the language, the intonation that you're using, the rhythm in the music, and we're going to talk more about that today. The sounds themselves are important, but it's not the main focus sometimes. The other pieces, the rhythm, the intonation. So the sounds are individual to different people. Some people need a little bit more help. If the way you're making sounds changes the message, then yes, you have to work on some of that. If something that you're doing changes the message where someone's not understanding it, that's when we need to work on that. Most of the goals that I hear from my clients are that you're not here to sound American. You're not here to remove an accent. You're here to be clear, and you're here to feel confident. And you'd be surprised. A small shift in how you communicate can give you the confidence that you need, and it just changes the game. And I've watched it in many, many people. I was coaching someone from Norway recently, and she actually did not have a very strong accent, but her confidence and how she perceived herself was that she had a very strong accent. So she developed an amazing tool. It was a mental health tool. She developed an app. She's been pitching all over the UK. She was pitching in New York. And when I met her, she was petrified to pitch. And all she kept saying to me was, okay, I have this really strong accent, and I can't make my point, and I just don't want to do this. Now, at this point, after a few sessions, she began to realize the power of her own communication. And it was just a small shift. She was able to control some of what she thought of was the accent, and also develop her voice, develop her body language. And now she's pitching with a lot more confidence. And it's in a very short amount of time. All right, let's see. Voice. Voice is something that, again, varies from person to person. Voice is not really part of an accent. So for some people it is, but a lot of the times it's the power, it's the energy of your voice and how you're delivering. So some people have a very high voice. Some people have a very scratchy voice, and they speak like this. And that could actually diminish some of your energy, right? So if you sound like this all the time, it may make you sound like you're a little bit more tired. You're less interested. So your voice can tell a lot about you. We control voice with breath. We control voice by opening our mouth a little bit more and shaping the sounds. We think about how tight we are when we get nervous, because that could squeeze our voice and make it hard for the voice to come out. So those are some of the elements that I work on with voice. Okay. Intonation, we're going to talk a lot about today, but that's basically how you're connecting, how you are able to connect to your audience, and how you change what you sound like by putting stress on certain syllables, by using different rhythm and intonation and music. The music of every language is going to change from language to language. Body language. So one good thing about body language that you want to remember is that, does your body language match what you're saying? You know, if you're sitting here and you're like this and you're saying, "Oh, I'm having a great time," and you know, you're not matching exactly what you're saying, or if you're very tight, you're very closed, you're not moving around at all. I'm trying not to block you, but you do need to move around a little. You do need to pick up the pace a little in order to engage your audience. So your body language says a lot about you too. And you want to pay attention to your body. You want to pay attention to if you're slouching, if you're standing too straight, if you're standing too stiff. You know, those are all things that could affect the message. That also affects the listener. All right, let's move along. All of the goals that we work on do come down to the connection. So the connection for intonation is sort of the secret. How you're using intonation is going to be very important for the listener. Now, as we said, connection is very important to the audience because that's how they'll tune into you. If you are using a different type of music, it might change the way someone perceives the message. So, rhythm, pitch, rate, and stress. So we're going to talk about that. The music of the language, how you're varying your pitch throughout a sentence. So you actually have to speak on different notes in English. If you are speaking on one note, that's going to be very difficult for a listener to follow because they're not going to know where to tune in to the important facts. Rate, how quickly you speak. And in New York, people speak very quick. I am from New York. Something I have to control on a regular basis is my rate of speech. And where you're putting stress on words. Stress is basically how you're using your vowels. And this is where the pronunciation actually does come in handy, but vowels are where all the emotion comes in English. Oh, I love that. Oh, she was beautiful. I went to the park and it was so cold. And I'm communicating all my emotion through these vowels, but I have to know how to move them and stretch them and use them in order to create emotion.
What's the difference between rhythm and rate again?
So the rhythm is really the music of the language, how you're moving the pitches, how you're putting stress on words, how you're using accent. The rate is actually the speed, how quickly or how slow you're speaking. Okay? Did you have a question?
I'm still confused.
You're still confused?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're speaking, all right, let's back it up before we go there. If you're speaking very quickly and you're moving through a thought very fast, it's going to be a little harder to follow. So when you're speaking very quickly, we're going to talk about pausing. A key thing to use is pausing, and we're going to get back to that.
Yeah.
But the rhythm itself is how you're putting stress on the language. What words are moving, what words are popping up, how you're connecting to the audience using that pitch variation. In English, you need that variation in order to connect. So what I like to make sure that people understand is, let's say, all right, I'm speaking to you right now. Certain words are actually popping up at you. You're actually moving certain words in a sentence. So let's say you have, today is the Chinese Lantern Festival. Today is the Chinese Lantern Festival. So every word does not get equal stress. Every word is not equally timed. You can actually move through certain words slower and stretch the vowel and move the pitch up slightly. So if I said, "Hi, my name is Lisa." "Hi, my name is Lisa." You hear certain things pop up. And that's actually what you have to do. If you're speaking on one note, "Hi, my name is Lisa." Or if I'm saying it very quickly, "Hi, my name is Lisa." You're losing the opportunity to actually introduce yourself. And you're also might be losing the opportunity to deliver something important. A fact, a request for funding, something that you're presenting in a meeting that's extremely important that you want people to know, your research, whatever it is, you have to use that movement in order to communicate. So you do want to picture that movement as, actually when you look at your phone sometimes you can see this on the little wave monitors. It's really measuring loudness, but you see when you're speaking sometimes, the loudness moves up and down like this. So you can actually see the phone picking up loudness when you're recording yourself. That's loudness, and loudness doesn't always equal pitch. So loudness is one of the components of it, but pitch is the movement of it. So if you were to introduce yourself, can you introduce yourself?
Hey, my name is Li Chong.
Okay, so exactly what you just did. Hey, my name is Li Chong, right? So you actually used it to create certain movement right there. You went, hey, and you actually stretched it. So you actually did introduce yourself in a way where you used some rhythm there. I'm not going to ask everybody to do that, but thank you for that. So you're actually using that stress to create some mood, to create some rhythm. Now, it's a strange thing to vary your pitch, and it's a hard concept to learn. It's one of the hardest concepts for actually. I work with a lot of people from Asia, a lot of Chinese speakers, a lot of Korean speakers, and moving pitch around in a sentence in American English is tough because it doesn't always translate from Chinese to English. The rhythm of Chinese is not the same as the rhythm of English. So when you're speaking, you tend to speak and use a more equal tone across the sentence, or use the same notes, the same pitches. And you actually do have to start thinking about moving your pitch up for those important words. So slightly picking up your pitch. I say pitch up, but slightly picking up your pitch. It's cold outside. It's cold outside and I needed an extra jacket. And what you're hearing is da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So you're hearing the pitch come up, and you're actually stretching the words. Now, if you want to practice varying your pitch a little, I'm going to ask you guys to do this in your seats. You want to start thinking about putting things on different notes. So when you're speaking, start thinking about putting words on different notes in a sentence. Oh, I'd really like to go, and actually do that. Now, sometimes it feels like you're putting it on way too much, and that's a big thing for people. They feel like they're being fake. A lot of the times when you feel like you're being fake, it's actually not as big as you think it is. And one way to test this is to record yourself. So play with how you're reading something. Try to turn it on a little bit, turn it on a lot, and see what it sounds like. So, oh, I'd love to do this. Now, I tell people to put it on as much as they can. Imitate the best American accent you can do. Listen to it. And I know it's going to sound, at first you're going to say, okay, I can't do this. It sounds so fake. It sounds awful. And then you listen, and it's actually not as big as you think it's going to be. It's actually a lot less. You'd be surprised what happens when you start to record yourself and listen to your own speech. A lot of people don't like doing it, but it's a really good habit to get into, to start knowing what you sound like. And, the whole fake it till you make it theory. You actually have to put it on a little bit and get used to using it so that you can actually use it more consistently. It does take practice. It's not something that's easy to do, and it's not native to you. So that's something that you have to start thinking about. How am I using this rhythm? How am I connecting to the audience? If I'm connecting to the audience in a certain way and I'm asking a question, the audience needs to know I'm asking a question. If I need to make a very strong statement, the audience needs to know that. If I'm requesting funding, if I'm requesting $14 million versus $40 million, that should be clear. And it just depends on where you're putting the accents there. Why I use this, because it's actually just a fun way of understanding how to vary pitch a little bit. So if you start here and you're up high and it says milk, eggs, bread, you're actually varying the pitch from milk, eggs, bread. And that's what I mean by varying pitch. You're just speaking on different notes. Again, that's not something completely native to a lot of people, but you want to play with it. Just try it. Try it. Okay, even more. So start high. Milk, eggs, bread.
Milk, eggs, bread.
Yes. All right, the next one we're going to try. I know this is. All right, so they're simple. Just play with it. Green, yellow, blue.
Green, yellow, blue.
Yes. Yes, that actually sounded. Now, how does it feel when you do that? Does it feel different than you're normally? Just nod if it feels different. Yes? Okay. Okay. All right, so it feels a little different because you're not used to doing it, but that's what you need to do in the sentence to move. When I say move your pitch around, that's what it feels like. green, yellow, blue. I'd like to go. Or, let's see. Give me a sentence, because I can't think of one right now. The Lantern Festival. So, Happy Lantern Festival. Instead of Happy Lantern Festival, Happy Lantern Festival. You're actually moving the pitches within that little phrase, and you have to move them, because that's how the person that's listening is unconsciously waiting for that cue. Another one, just one more. From the low to the high, sun, moon, stars. Try it.
Sun, moon, stars.
Even more.
Sun, moon, stars.
That's it. Okay, so you want to move the pitch so that you can feel that it's making a difference. And another thing to think about is how the language connects. So this is actually a tough one for a lot of people, connecting the words to each other while you're speaking. English is not, the words are not broken between, in a sentence, they're not broken between each other. So, I'd like to go, and then I'd like to go. If you picture, I would say picture some finger paint on your hand, and you're speaking. I'd love to see you, and say, I'd love to see you. I'd love to see you. Without breaking it, if you could picture the finger paint on your hand, and you're painting the picture of the sentence, it's very wavy, and it's unbroken. So you're moving it like this. And if you could picture doing that, that actually makes it easier to think about linking. You don't want to break between words. You don't want it to sound choppy. You want it to sound fluent, and you want it to move up and down. So you picture a wave. You picture this shape much more than this shape. Does that make sense? Okay. So no matter what you're saying, we're going to practice a few sentences with each other. You need to keep that wave. So, my name is Lisa Patty. I'm a speech pathologist. I live in Brooklyn. Instead of I live in Brooklyn, I live in Brooklyn. And it actually makes a big difference when you're connecting to your audience. Oh, would you like that? Or, oh, how are you feeling? And you're asking this question, you're landing it on the person. Oh, what would you like to do tonight? And it actually has movement, and you feel like it's reaching the person. In English, this works. Not in every language, but this is how this music works. And then we were talking about rhythm. This is part of that rhythm. Okay. Now, I want you to try this first sentence. Now, if you think about what I was saying, we're going to connect the words. We're going to look at what words have a little bit more meaning. So words that have a little bit more meaning, you're going to stretch the word, and you're going to say it on a slightly higher pitch. So, we went to a great new restaurant last night. We went to a great new restaurant last night. So, do you hear where it varies and changes? Do you hear it start to pop up? Yeah? All right, try saying that first sentence.
We went to a great new restaurant.
Okay. Will one of you try it? Will one of you volunteer for it? I don't want to pick anybody, but does anyone want to try it? Sure.
We went to a great new restaurant last night.
Okay. What did you think of that, though? Because I feel like that might not have. That didn't make me want to go there or ask you anything else about it. So.
We went to a great new restaurant last night.
I don't know. What do you think? Yes, you're gonna try. You're gonna comment.
I was
or
going
you're
to
gonna
try to do it better.
Okay,
But
go ahead.
I would emphasize the word new
Okay,
and great.
that's great. That you can emphasize
Yes.
whatever you want. It's what you're communicating, right? So, give it a shot.
We went to a great new restaurant last night.
Yeah. That was the commercial for that sentence. Does anyone else want to try it? Aside from these two guys. Does anyone else want to try it?
Son, let me try it.
Yeah.
We went to a great new restaurant last night.
Yeah, that was it. Do you feel it? Does it feel different than how you would normally say it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's what I want you to practice. I want you to practice some of that movement. I want someone else, if you would please volunteer for the second one. Not you guys. That's it. Someone else volunteer, please. Ting.
Oh. We would have sit outside. It was raining.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any feedback for Ting? How was it? All right, go ahead.
Yeah, we will have sat outside, but it was raining.
That was good. I want you to slow it down just a little bit and stretch. the vowel here. We would have sat outside.
Outside,
Stretch it.
correct. We will have sat outside, but it was raining.
So I want you to use those vowels to stretch them.
Uh-huh.
Outside, and it was
Outside.
raining.
Outside, raining.
Try it one more time.
We will have sat outside, but it was raining.
Yeah. See, and when you stretch the vowels, actually, it makes a big difference. It actually changes the way you just presented that. And that was good. Thank you very much for bravely volunteering for that. All right, the next one. Anyone? 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 Yes.
The appetizers were delicious and the service was outstanding.
Excellent. So, how did that feel for you? Was that different for you, or is that fairly normal for you?
I feel like I moved my mouth a lot.
Okay, so that's something that people tell me all the time. You move your mouth a lot in English. You have to move your mouth a lot. One of the reasons is because of the vowels. So the vowels in English are big, much longer. They require you to open your mouth a lot more. They feel a little strange, but they actually help you get some volume out there. And they actually, so by opening your mouth a little bit more and using those vowels, you can get volume out and you can get that emotion out. You can get that stress out by keeping your mouth closed. Because now, I want you to actually explain this to me. In Chinese, and if there are speakers of other languages, please chime in. Do you need to use the vowels as much as you do in English? Are the vowels as important as you're speaking the language? Is it going to be as big and wavy and long in Chinese? Do you need them this way to create a mood?
Not that much.
Not that much. Okay. So would you say you needed to open your mouth as much? Like this big, Are you open in Chinese, yes or no?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Not that much.
No. Okay. So it's a weird feeling to have to do this because you feel like you're going like this all the time. And it feels strange. But there is a lot of movement happening here. And it's because some of the vowels are longer, some of the vowels are two sounds two vowels that combine make one sound, but it's a fairly long sound. But that's how you're getting the stress on the word. So we talked about stress. You're stretching the vowel and you're moving your pitch. So you think about the waviness, you think about the connectedness, you think about the stretch. The next one. Anyone want to? Yes.
My friend from Italy joined us, and she really loved it.
That was good. That was really good. That was great. That was so good. Yes. How did that feel?
Strange.
Yeah. It's supposed to feel strange. It's okay. I know that. So I grew up listening to Italian, but I didn't necessarily grow up speaking it because my grandparents came over from Italy, and I learned much more of it as an adult. And there are times when I have to really concentrate on how I'm pronouncing things. I'm actually practicing right now with someone who's staying with me, and he's an Italian speaker. And I have to think about how I'm pronouncing things. When I have clients that teach me Chinese words, I have to really think about how I'm saying it. And it does feel a little strange, but then as you practice it, it gets to be yours. And that's why it's not as hard as you think, but it does take some practice, and it requires a little risk that you let yourself do this, because it feels a little silly. How about that last one? Now, this is a question, so I want someone to ask the question. Anyone want to try it? One last one?
Would you like to meet there next week?
All right, so now I want you to try it again, and I want you to find a place to really stretch the vowel a bit more.
Would you like to meet there next week?
That was better. That was actually better. Did anyone think that sounded different than the first sentence?
Yes.
Yeah, it did. And it just required a little shift. Now, sometimes that shift, once you start hearing yourself do this, you like it. And it's fun to listen to. Again, I'm a big fan of recording. If you decide to try this, try it at home, try it with whatever you're reading, take a few passages, take a few lines from a book, a magazine, something you're reading online, and record yourself with the phone. And then play it back and see how you sound. And then if you actually would like to, I tell clients to do this all the time, maybe if you have something that's in print, it's even easier. You could read something that's in print, record it, listen to it, mark it. Okay, so I'd like to change this and this, and then record it again. And see if you can correct yourself. And that's how you're going to start to learn this, because you're going to start to build your ear. So a big piece of this work is changing the way your brain listens to sound. And this is actually true. So the two things I tell people are, for accent work, everybody comes to me and says, okay, I'm an adult and I'm not going to learn a new accent. It's very, very difficult. But if you just think of it as muscle memory or procedural memory, you're teaching your articulators, your tongue, your lips, to do something different than it's used to doing. Just like anything else, just like when you go to the gym. So you go to the gym on the first day and you pick up a weight and it's very hard to pick up that weight and you feel weak. And then you keep doing it and you keep doing it and you keep building that muscle. Well, after a while, it becomes easier. A dance step. You go to the whatever. You start to dance, you learn the step, and in the beginning it feels weird. And then you do it over and over and over again until it becomes something that you own. And it's the same thing. When you are shaping sounds, you're gonna do it over again. And in the beginning it feels a little strange because you're repeating it over and over, but as soon as you start to get it, you're gonna put it into how you're speaking. 5 minutes in your day. When you're getting a coffee. You're going to practice in times when it's convenient. You don't need to sit and study this. It's not like when you're learning the language. This is a practice. So if you want to try this and you're out at a restaurant next time, you say, okay, I'm going to try putting this on. I'm going to try doing this while I'm ordering my food. Or I'm ordering at a bar. Or I had a couple of drinks and now it's easier to do this because I don't care. So we're going to try to do this within the scope of your day. When you're talking to a friend, when you're at work, but you're not in a high-pressure situation. All right, so volume. Volume is extremely important for people because you need to be heard. If you're speaking too low, it's very hard to be heard. And many of us, or many people, speak very low. So you actually have to start thinking about how you're using your volume. Can people hear you? And if you are, you could be perfectly clear, but if someone can't hear the message, that's going to be difficult. If you're speaking too loud, that doesn't help either, because that scares people away. So I have both. I work with both. Some people speak very low, and it's very hard to hear them, and they're not opening their mouth, and they're speaking very low. And some people do this, and it's like getting hit with a brick, and that's not fun either. So you want to think about how loudly you're speaking. Are you speaking enough so that, I tell people, there's a scale. If you're whispering, that's one point in the scale. If you're speaking low enough where maybe someone could hear you next to you, that's the next level. If you're speaking like this, and it's conversational, and people can hear you in a room this size, okay, so you start to modulate your voice. Go up a little higher, maybe I need to hit the people in the back. And then the loudest would be maybe if you're at a game. But you want to figure out where you are on that scale. Are you really low? Are you just about enough where someone standing here can understand you and hear you? Or are you speaking loud enough where everybody's hearing it and you're able to control that volume? When you see the person in the back starting to nod, then you know you're reaching them. When you see someone not quite getting it, if you seem to be losing the audience in the back, you might not be using that volume. Volume is important. It's also cultural. So I do talk a lot about this with people, what your own culture helps you, what your own culture, your communication style in your culture tells you to do. So some people are very used to speaking in a certain way, speaking low, speaking loud, using certain body language. And that is something that you want to be aware of as well. What are you used to? What are you comfortable with? It's very important to think about how you communicate. It's also very important to feel authentic. So you want to feel like you come to a place where you're comfortable, where it's you, but you're using the skills as to command the room. Okay, so the next. Rate is a big one. We talked about this, how quickly you're speaking. Now, the rate of speech can be controlled. You could either go too fast or too slow by pausing, which we're going to talk about. If you're going too slow, that's something that is a little difficult to listen to because you might, again, lose the audience. So picture you're asking someone for directions on the street, and they say, well, you might want to walk down the block, make a right, and cross the street. And after a while, you're just like, okay, please tell me, how do I get there, or how do I do this? So very, very slow speech can actually be just as damaging as very fast speech. Very fast speech is helped through the pause. A pause is going to help you have power. So when you see a comma, you'll pause. But if you start to think about pausing in a way where it's going to help the listener understand what you're saying, it gives them a moment. It gives you a moment to breathe. It gives someone a moment for how serious the conversation is. So you're identifying what's really important, and you're pausing. I like to think of Obama on this one because he uses a lot of pausing, but he uses pausing like a master. I think one of his techniques is pausing to let people listen and then moving on. And he used to draw people in with that. So that's actually extremely powerful. And there's many reasons to do it. Instead of slowing down your speech, use the pause. And when you have a smaller amount of information, so we talk about thought groups. If you're speaking within a thought, let's say, I'd like to go, and then I'll meet you. I'd like to go. Within that little piece, you can move your pitch around a lot easier than trying to do it across the sentence. So it gives you a little time to break. So finally, one way of practicing, and this will be our last little exercise for the evening, is, and I do this with a lot of people. So Dr. Seuss is a famous children's author in the States. He wrote in the 1960s. He writes in rhyme. He writes very, very strange books, and they're fun to read, and kids love them, and they still read them. One thing that I tell people is if you want to practice intonation, if you want to practice energy, get one of these books and read it like you're reading to a 4-year-old. And you'd be surprised how much energy you have to put on in English in order to amuse a 4-year-old. Because you're going to lose them if you're boring. Because they're not going to want to sit there. So you have to put it on. You have to be animated. But you can take this energy and put it into a pitch, and put it into a speech, and put it into a phone call. And this is one way to practice it. So it's easy, it's fun, it's a little silly, but it actually works. It does work. So green eggs and ham is actually one that is a famous one that everybody knows. So this one is not in a box, not with a fox, not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere. I would not eat green eggs and ham. I do not like them, Sam, I am. And everything is exaggerated. Everything is exaggerated. So if you could try this as a children's book, if you're reading a children's book, I want you all to try it. You don't have to do it one by one, but I want everybody to try it now. And I want you to really pour it on as if you have to entertain a 4-year-old kid. Try it. Go!
Not in a house, not with a mouse. I would not eat them here or there. I would not eat them anywhere.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, I'm going to be here later. We can talk. You can meet with me. And I could actually give you some tips directly. So it was very nice meeting all of you. Thank you so much.